For your information, so far it is around 2 years that we have this program. So in each program, we select a very nice, a very recent publication, particularly the type of the publication which is interesting or hot topics of the day in endodontics. This work supported by Tehran University of Medical Sciences, which I am affiliated to, and also Asian Pacific Endodontic Confederation Educational Committee that support the APEC and APEC is Asian Pacific Endodontic Federation, contains of more than 40 countries in that. The educational committee job is to somehow disseminate information or the very recent information about science of endodontics for all the counselors and members and officers. We are happy that is a growing program, that every time that we have this program, we have a lot of you with us, a lot of young brain with us, which we learn from them. And surprisingly, recently we have received a lot of email from the authors of endodontic articles that voluntarily ask us to have the articles in our program. So far, we always select in the committee, we select the author, we select the article as it has attracted many of the readers around the world, and we invite them and ask them to join us, like today. But gradually, we are receiving a lot of requests, and this is amazing. It shows that authors, they like actually put themselves in a very difficult situation because they have enough confidence for that, obviously, to be exposed to criticism. And this criticism are positive criticism. Obviously, we follow a very specific methodology for that purpose, for critical appraisal. Obviously, when it comes to clinical work or clinical trials, it is different. When it comes to review articles, it is different as well. But this article that we are going to discuss today is a bit different because this is one of the very hot topic in medical sciences, not just in endodontics. So I'm sure we are going to have very, very interesting discussion with each other. Oh, I can see Burçin is also joined us. Hi, Burçin. Burçin was one of our previous appraiser. So authors, be ready. We have a lot of appraisers today. Ex-appraisers, new appraisers, a lot of fresh mind. Hi, Burçin.
I'm sure. Hello. Nice to see you all again. I read the article with all interest, and I'm sure Güher will do better job than me. She's a good, excellent appraiser, I think. It's very exact for me to hear because I'm very interested in artificial intelligence. So when will we start?
Now, all of us are very, very interesting. Okay, İlke is also joining us from the Educational Committee. She's the secretary of the Educational Committee. Hi, İlke, how are you?
Hi, I'm very fine. And how are you, dear colleague? Hi, everyone. It's nice to see you in another amazing meeting of Journal Club. And dear Nekofar, thank you for your extraordinary moderating as always. And dear Güher, I'm sure that she will speak. Okay, she will speak.
Yes.
Am I right, dear Güher?
Yes.
All the best with you.
Thank you very much, İlke. So I know you are highly booked, and I know your schedule is fully booked. But I told İlke, without you, we are not going to start. Thank you very much for joining us.
Thank you so much. Yes, I have very busy schedule nowadays, but I like to join these extraordinary scientific meetings. Okay, thank you so much for your invitation, kind invitation as always.
Yeah, I have a very good news for all of you, and somehow maybe a dangerous news for our authors. We have Professor Arshad Hassan. He's an amazing appraiser as well. Oh, Professor Beybro Kayahan, our ex-president, is here as well. Amazing. We have great team. We're almost ready in 5 seconds to officially start our session. Professor Al-Hawaizi, Ahlan, how are you, brother? Thank you very much for joining. What a day, amazing. Okay, may I ask whoever can turn on the video, turn it on, because then the appraiser, the authors, and everybody can see your face, and it becomes like a real meeting, not a virtual one. Okay, everybody, hello again, officially from Tehran University of Medical Sciences to all of you. Thanks to Professor Baber Kayahan and Professor Ibrahim Abu Tahun. 2 years ago, we started this amazing program as the online journal club of APEC, which is sponsored and supported by Tehran University of Medical Sciences, and the department who is doing that is Department of Appraise to Raise. And I should let you know that this is absolutely a non-profit, a voluntary job for all of us. Nobody pay to anybody for anything. And the only things that we have some sponsor for just the cost of the program. So today we are going to discuss about a very, very interesting topic, Age of Science, artificial thinking, let's say that. My God. Okay, in endodontics, this type of intelligence is very new in medicine, and this is amazing. It is a multidisciplinary approach, and I'm not going to take your time and wait for this amazing session. Before we go further, I'm going to ask the authors to introduce themselves, and then I'm going to ask Goher Baru to introduce herself and start the session. Dr. Saqib, please go ahead.
Okay, so my name is Dr. Saqib Habib. I'm working as a postgraduate resident in the section of operative dentistry and endodontics at the University Hospital, Karachi, Pakistan. So I'm currently in my final year residency program, and I'm here working under the supervision of my consultants, in which one of is Dr. Fahad Umer, Dr. Farhan Raza Khan, and Dr. Rubia Ghapoor.
Thank you very much indeed. And we have Dr. Fahad Umer as well with us. Dr. Fahad, please go ahead.
Good evening and good afternoon, everybody, depending on which part of the world you're from. I'm Dr. Fahad Umer. I am assistant professor at the Khan University Hospital. I am working as an associate program director for the operative dentistry and endodontic program there. I'm also humbled by this invitation. Looking forward to having a productive talk. I'm both excited as well as a little bit anxious. Excited because the excitement from you guys has rolled over to us. Your interest in AI has really excited us. A little bit anxious because I attended the previous program, and I'm not really looking forward to as much as a hot seat as the previous authors got.
Okay, no worries, no worries. Obviously, we are going to be fair. Don't worry. Okay, go ahead. This is your time to start. Before that, if any of our colleagues, professor from around the world, if they have any comment or anything that they want to say before we officially start, please go ahead. Professor Baber Kayahan, any comments?
Yeah, you can hear me now, I think.
Yes, yes, very well, very well.
Honestly, I know nothing. I do not know anything about artificial intelligence. And today I will learn a lot, I think. And I'd like to thank you for this nice organization. And I'd like to once again remind you that I'd like to thank you once again for this nice organization. And that this organization is supported by APEC, but that's because of you. It is still going on, and thank you very much. And honestly, I do not know anything about artificial intelligence, and I think I will learn a lot today. Thank you very much.
Okay, great. Go ahead. Are you ready?
Okay, I have another suggestion.
Yes, please.
Why don't all of us use a virtual background of our associations and universities so that if a trespasser is there, he may not have such thing with him or with her, and he or her can be singled out easily. That can be another option.
Good, good. Thank you very much. Good idea, good idea. Let's see what happened, and hopefully we can enjoy from this scientific session. That was a request of somebody to speak. If you want to speak, please raise your hand electronically, then you can unmute and speak. Okay, go ahead, we are ready.
Okay, and can I share my slide?
Yes, I think you already co-host and you can do that. Dr. Saqib and Dr. Umer, you are also co-host, and if you want to share anything anytime, please feel free. Okay, go ahead. Go ahead, your turn. You can just share your screen with us and start.
Okay.
Yeah, we can see your screen very well.
Yes.
So while Goha preparing her screen, I'm going to tell you about Yeditepe University, one of the first private university, or let's say medical and dental school in Istanbul and in Turkey, and a very prestigious school. And I have a lot of friends in Yeditepe University. Goher is one of them. So we ask her to appraise this article. Goher, go ahead.
Okay, thank you. At the beginning, I want to say it's an honor and a great excitement for me to be a part of this study club. And at the beginning, I want to I appreciate that Dr. Fahad and Dr. Dr. Saqib is so close and so nice that to be appraised by an assistant professor. I try to be good at this work. And this is Habib. I'm from Yeditepe University, Istanbul. I'm working here since 5 years and as an assistant professor. Today, I will appraise the topic of critical analysis of artificial intelligence in endodontics and its scoping review. First, I want to go on with what is scoping review. Actually, systemic reviews are resource intensive. To find out whether work on one is a good idea, and some research conduct a scoping review first to find out more about one unique specific topic of evidence in a particular topic area. Preliminary assessment to establish the size and nature of evidence base. No formal quality assessment often done in preparation for more focused. At the first time, I want to ask the authors that, is it true that scoping reviews need no formal quality assessment? Am I now right or wrong?
Yes. So I'm going to go ahead and answer that question. So in order for a scoping review, it's not necessary to have a quality assessment in there.
Okay, so I can ask the other questions when it's time. Okay, thank you. And we will start with the introduction. First, we have to know that some terms that we will talk about today. First, artificial intelligence. The recent interest in artificial intelligence can be attributed to the development of a new generation of specialized algorithms that can analyze and predictions using large data sets. Actually, artificial intelligence is an umbrella term used to define technologies that can perform cognitive, cognitive functions mimicking human intelligence. With artificial intelligence, the terms machine learning, deep learning, artificial neural network, convolutional neural network terms should be known. And machine learning is a part of artificial intelligence which depends on predict outcomes based on a database. It is facilitate machines to learn from data so they can resolve issues without human input. Especially, we have to know that machine learning needs a training and then the learning comes next. Deep learning is a subfield of machine learning and consists of artificial neural networks. These ANN models are inspired by the biological neural networks that are the backbone of deep learning. It is important to note that the word deep in deep learning refers to the numbers of layers in the neural network. We have an input, a raw image, then the hidden layers can conduct them, and at the end we have an output layer to get a data. The deep learning is actually a subset of machine learning composed of algorithms that permit software to train itself to perform tasks like speech and image recognition by exposing multi-layered neural networks and networks to vast amounts of data. Unlike machine learning, deep learning algorithms don't require manual input from domain experts. Instead, they learn from examples automatically. This superior biomedical image processing ability has made deep learning more popular than machine learning. Also, the authors in this article make a table to understand these terms and summarize us the meaning of these terms.
Excuse me, can I ask you to go back to the previous slide, please? Because I want to ask authors if they want to add anything to this part, because I believe this is very necessary for us to have a common understanding from all the terms that we want to use from now, well, because this is very new to all of us. So maybe authors wants to add anything. Do you want to add anything, any of you, please?
Yes, thank you, Nicofer. I'm just going to go ahead and try and explain these terms. So this will be easier for everybody to comprehend when we use these terms. So artificial intelligence, already Gohar has mentioned, is an umbrella term which deals with different kind of computer programs that try and mimic human domains or human functions. And machine learning is a specific type of artificial intelligence in which special programs or algorithms are manually taught as domain experts teach these algorithms some features that they want to look at manually. And then once they learn from those manual input from subject experts, they are able to make prediction based on those manual inputs. Neural network is a rudimentary form of artificial intelligence in which very basic neuron-like structures are utilized, and they are also able to make predictions based on the learning that they are taught. Deep learning is a further upgrade on neural networks in which there are more than one neural network layer or more than one deep layer. The advantage that deep learning offers over machine learning is that, remember I told you that in machine learning, you need to have domain experts teach the algorithm specific features that they want to look at. For example, in the case of a picture, if if you want to recognize a picture and differentiate from being a cat or a dog, a domain expert would come in and say, okay, so a cat may have ears, this is the color of the cat, it will have whiskers, and ears may be pointy. And in terms of a dog, the domain expert has to tell the algorithm that the dog will have a snout, and the ears may not be pointy, and it will not have whiskers. In deep learning, the advantage is that the algorithm need not be taught explicitly about the features. So the algorithm is given two data sets. One is the image itself. For example, I'm just taking an analogy of image. It can be leveraged in other circumstances also. So one data set includes the image, and the other data consists of the output or what it is. So let's take the cat analogy forward. So there'll be certain pictures of cat and dogs, and these are labeled pictures which the deep learning algorithm looks at and runs a couple of forward and backward passes and perform certain iterations and is able to extract the features on its own. Sometimes we are not aware of what features the algorithm thinks are important, and just makes a prediction on its own. This is a black box effect, but usually it is found that the algorithm works really well on its own and therefore does not require manual input. A convolutional neural network is a specialized form of deep learning in which which is specialized for image processing tasks. If people are more interested on understanding of how a convolutional network works, I'll just try and explain. Think of it as a sliding window which passes through the image, and it has different filters on it. So each filter comprehends to different kind of things. For example, so if, again, taking the analogy of a cat, the cat will have different, any image will have borders, shapes, and different colors. So the convolutional network runs different sliding windows and looks for these specific features. So the advantage that convolutional neural network offers in deep learning is that it makes the process a little bit more faster. I hope people are able to comprehend.
Thank you very much. That's a good start. Obviously, we need time to digest all this information, obviously, but let's go ahead and see what we are going to discuss. Okay.
Nicoper, is it okay if I just share my screen? I have certain images. It'd be better.
Yes, yes. If go ahead is fine, go ahead. Yeah, yes, please go ahead, Fahad. Please. You can share. I think you already co-host and you can share.
Okay, so I'm just gonna go through. Are you able to see my screen now?
Yes, yes.
Yeah, okay. So
maybe you can go to the presentation mode, then we can see
go ahead and do that right now.
Yes. Yeah, so, very good.
I'm just trying to figure this out a little bit. Give me a second. Yeah, okay. So this is a good example of what the difference between deep learning is. And here you can visualize that in terms of machine learning, there needs to be a pre-processing step of feature extraction, which is done by domain experts. And so you need subject specialists to give different information to the algorithm in terms of machine learning so that it can make its classification. In deep learning, you don't really require very many domain experts to tell the computer software or algorithm as to what the classification outcome would be. So what happens is, if there's enough data for the deep learning algorithm to look at, it is able to adjust its internal parameters and is able to make the prediction on its own. And usually it has been found to be fairly accurate. So this is the difference between machine learning and deep learning. So a neural network is based on, loosely based on artificial neuron, just like the human neuron. Here you can see there's an input coming into the neuron cells through dendrites, it's processed, and then an output comes from the axon. Likewise, this can be shown in terms of a mathematical model. So this is what a normal or a shallow neural network will look like. So you've got different kind of inputs coming in, and these inputs are assigned weights or parameters by the algorithm, and all these weights are summed up, and then another mathematical function or a non-linear function is applied to this, and based on whatever information is coming in, the network or the neuron is able to make a prediction. And if we clump these neurons together in more than 3 layers, you come up with a deep neural network. And there are various ways in which you can apply it, and usually it is applied in medical sciences and dentistry in computer vision. And here I'm just going to go ahead and explain a convolutional neural network. So if there's an image of a cat, the convolutional layer that is added to the deep learning algorithm follows a sort of like a sliding window approach. So a layer or a filter is applied. So the convolutional layer has a bunch of filters. So after following these filters, it goes through another software which is known as max pooling, which just makes max pooling. What it does, it just makes the image more readable and more accessible for the computer algorithm to work with. And then again, activation function is applied, and then it goes through a fully connected layer, and then the software is able to make a prediction whether it's a cat or not a cat. So here is how you would be able to visualize a neural network. Remember, I was talking about how, so this is one filter going over the cat image, and here it's just looking for borders and edges. The next filter looks for different kinds of colors in that picture. And the following pictures, as it goes along deeper into the convolutional layer, the image becomes more and more abstract. And this requires a little bit more understanding. Software experts are still not very sure how the algorithm makes this decision, but like I said before, it's been fairly accurate, and some research is going on trying to understand how the algorithm comes to a decision. So I hope now the concepts are a little bit better visualized as well as understood by the audience. I'm gonna stop.
Okay, thank you very much. Thank you very much indeed. That's really great. Thanks a lot. I think Professor Kim, our president, was with us. He sent his regards to everybody because it's too late in Korea. He sent his greeting to everybody, and also he said that he couldn't stay with us because it is too late. Okay, let's carry on. Go ahead, please go ahead.
Okay. And now?
Yeah, we can hear you.
Okay. I'm going on with the areas that we use artificial intelligence. Since artificial intelligence can offer improved diagnostic accuracy with increased efficiency and hence better patient outcome, and the disciplines of medicine, surgery, and radiology have seen an exponential growth in this research. But when we look at and when we write the keywords to PubMed, in artificial intelligence and healthcare, and do a basic research, we can see that scientific publications related to artificial intelligence in healthcare have quadrupled in the past decade. When we search in a scientific database, we can see that this increased curiosity about artificial intelligence in health is obvious. And when we come to dentistry, in dentistry, we apply different and varied treatment protocols. During and before these protocols, the treatment is often specific, but sometimes in depth and needs further investigation or second opinion. And my next slide will be about what is the place of artificial intelligence in dentistry at this time, and do we believe in artificial intelligence to use in our operation areas. This is also a recent article that's done by that's a systemic review that's one by the Canal et al. And they searched that what is the part of the artificial intelligence in dentistry. Unfortunately, dental literature on the subject of artificial intelligence is rare yet. When we compare with the health care, in this systemic review, 43 original research articles on artificial intelligence were identified over the past 12 years. Actually, we have only 35 about all that dental applications. And the purpose of this scoping review is to critically analyze the different types of artificial intelligence models and algorithms used in endodontics and what diagnostic tasks were performed with these artificial intelligence models. The review will also evaluate the methodological quality of the scientific evidence and help clarify terminologies and key principles of this technological advancement. In here, again, I asked Dr. Fahad, and I actually take my answer, but does the scoping review, if doesn't need to assess the quality of studies, is it your choice and what you want to attribute or make a contribution about this methodological quality assessment?
Thank you for posting that question. It's a very good question. So the reason that we included a quality assessment in our scoping review is that although it's not necessary to do it, but it's also not forbidden. We wanted to look at the quality of literature that's there, and we've alluded to it in our introduction. The other reason was that we wanted to pilot our quality assessment tool also in this scoping review for future studies, and we've used it in another recent publication in a journal of oral maxillofacial radiology.
Fahad, weren't you worried about maybe losing some information, because this type of review is supposed to be comprehensive, but you just remove some of the articles and you said that they are not going to answer your question? Because this is not going to be a systematic review or a meta-analysis or such a things.
Right. So let me try and understand your question again. Could you rephrase the question? I didn't quite understand.
My question is, because when we run a systematic review and the aim is to do some sort of meta-analysis out of the data, obviously we are looking for a very high level articles. But in this type of review articles that you published, it is a very nice for us, because I mean, for such a thing, which is a new idea and new subject for clinician like us, obviously it is good to have such a review. But you said that you find 300 articles and it ends up with around 12 articles that you put them together. Am I right?
Right, right.
So my question is, you are not worried about losing some important information by rejecting some of those articles?
Okay, so so let me try and understand. So are you asking me why I had 300 articles and out of those I ended up with 12?
Exactly.
Right. So we had a very I don't want to say we had a very strict inclusion exclusion criteria. We wanted to include maximum number of articles, but we wanted to focus on the endodontic literature. So the articles which were removed were either not in line with the three-pronged strategy that we had. Our three-pronged strategy was, number one, having artificial intelligence related papers related to endodontics, and they should be and should have a focus on disease or outcomes of interest in endodontics. So this was our strategy, and whichever and all articles which fitted into this scope were actually included in the review.
Oh, so you don't reject anything in endodontics related one, am I right?
Yes. Yes.
Okay, so all related to endodontics are included.
Yes.
Great.
So let me just clarify. One article related to endodontic was excluded. This article was related to I believe it was related to assessment of difficulty index in endodontics.
Okay, that's fair. That's fair. Because I was worried maybe you just exclude something that those related to endodontics as well. This is good. This is good. So your question, your main question was about artificial intelligence in endodontics. So you include all of them except one, as you said. That's fine. That's fine. Thank you.
Right. So, so can I add this?
Yes, please go ahead. Yes.
So if you look at our review questions, we also didn't formulate our questions according to PICO's criteria. So if we have going to do that, we'll only restrict ourselves to only single outcome. So that's why our research questions were quite broad, and we did make sure that all the literature related to endodontics as diagnostic application are covered in our review. So that's why we make quite broad review questions and not a question related to a PICO's model.
Okay, got it. Very good. Go ahead, please.
Okay. And when we come to materials and methods, this scoping review was conducted using a predetermined protocol following the PRISMA extension for scoping reviews guidelines, as we are also new, and when the days are going, it's getting old for PRISMA for us, I think. And this PRISMA, we know that the PRISMA extension for scoping reviews is help the readers, including researchers, publishers, commissioners, and also for the patients, develop a greater understanding of relevant terminology, care concepts, and key items to report the scoping reviews. And when we come to the review questions, the authors focused on what are the diagnostic applications of artificial intelligence in endodontics? What were the notable findings? And the second one, what are the different type or systems of artificial intelligence models and algorithms that have been used in endodontics, machine learning, ANN, CNN, deep learning? And the third one, what are the data sets being studied? Radiographs, CBCT, histologic slides. For the fourth question, the last question is...
Go ahead. I think for some reason you unshared your presentation. Can you share it again, please?
Sorry.
You may carry on speaking and share it again.
Okay.
So while Gohar is sharing her presentation again, I want to say that the use of artificial intelligence in endodontics, Fahad and Saqib, please, one of you answer me, looks to me that is very, very initiative, and we need actually to increase our knowledge about that. According to your review, I understand, still we don't have enough information about that. Am I right? Fahad?
Yeah, thank you. So yes, it's true. And in our discussion, we've alluded to it. The algorithms that we have right now are very narrow task specific or focus algorithms. So for example, one algorithm is looking for disease and is able to do a good job looking for that disease, but may not be able to relate that disease to the anatomy or tooth, for example. So these algorithms, they have a fair way or fair passage to go through before they become real life, helpful in real life situations. And we've spoken about that in our discussion too.
Okay, yeah, the reason that I asked this question is because I think Gohar is trying to share, but it wasn't successful. Gohar, can you share it again? So maybe while Gohar is trying to share it, you can add something, Fahad, to my question before we go to the discussion part. If you want to say us something, if we want to improve the future studies, maybe in this group of the scientists that they are attending this session, you may find some people in the future that they like to work about this topic with your team. So maybe you add something, what is the best way to run such type of studies in the future? However, if Gohar is okay to carry on, we go back to Gohar and come back to my question. Give us some idea, Fahad, and then Gohar is going to stop.
So again, in our discussion, we spoke about it also, that we noted that there was a lot of heterogeneity in the studies that were being reported and written. So one, we have to come up with specific guidelines in terms of, improving the quality of studies that's coming in, which includes a lot of parameters. The Equator Network has done some work on it. And there is already a guideline that new researchers can look at and look into things that they should include in their future studies, number one. Number two, we need to work on databases. So one of the biggest challenges of leveraging these algorithms on new problems is that we don't have enough database. So artificial intelligence, especially deep learning, really came into fore once we had access, or the researchers or scientific community had access to number one, graphical computing units. That happened in 2005 or 6 or something. And then they had access to large databases such as the ImageNet or COCO, Microsoft COCO. So they were able to make and leverage these algorithms and look at their functionality on big databases. They could actually train their algorithm on big databases. Again, in our study, we also talk about the fact that the data sets that were used in the studies was quite low if we look at, or if we compare it with the other scientific community. So there are a lot of challenges, and there are a lot of areas of research that can be done and worked upon to improve the AI research in our community.
Yep. Okay, good. And I think it's going to be the job of other federations or associations, or even the governmental or university background, to prepare such an information and infrastructure to share with each other maybe in the future. So this type of discussion may give some idea to the leader of the federations and associations, endodontic associations, medical dental associations, to work together to prepare such a database. Obviously, the confidentiality of the data will be an issue as well. Am I right? Go ahead. Yes. What do you think? The confidentiality is a big issue sometimes.
Indeed, I think.
Yes, Fahad, please.
Yeah, indeed. I think we are also prone to several ethical pitfalls because, and we've written a paper on this, the ethical issues that are concerned with AI. The data sets that are being used, who owns this data? Does the dentist own the data, or does the patient own this data? How to anonymize this data? And how to collect these data sets and curate it properly and annotate it properly so that this can be utilized in a proper manner. So yes, there are several ethical concerns that need to be addressed also by the scientific community.
Okay, thank you very much indeed. Go ahead, please.
Okay, I think I couldn't share the fourth review question. This was what diagnostic performance measures are being used, for example, sensitivity, specificity, area under curve, accuracy, and F1 score. Actually, I would like to ask a question. Maybe it can be because of my knowledgelessness, but This is the first article that I read about the artificial intelligence. Mostly we are reading some articles and then we are try to learn and try to enlarge our knowledge about them. About that topic, and we are reading systemic reviews or these kind of scoping reviews. Should we give some information about, for example, what is F1 score, or what is specificity in artificial intelligence search? It can be it can be because of my less knowledge, I know, but I want to share your opinions.
Saqib, do you want to take this question?
Yes, sir. So yes, you're right. Actually, this scoping review was intended to just talk about the main terminologies and clarify their concepts. If you want to study more about these F1 scores, accuracy, they're well mentioned in primary studies. But for your knowledge, I would just say that as you're all very familiar with sensitivity and specificity, an F1 score and its other variables like precision and recall, they're just same as the sensitivity and specificity, and F1 is actually the geometric mean of the sensitivity and specificity. So these diagnostic performance metrics, they depend on what kind of task your algorithm is going to undertake. So in this review, we didn't talk about these performance metrics, how their operational definitions. I think you can look into the primary studies, they well explained them in the primary studies, so we didn't talk in this our review as well.
Mm-hmm.
So I'm just going to take this question a little bit further. Like Saqib correctly explained, so as endodontic community or as a medical or healthcare community, we are more, terms like sensitivity and specificity are more known to us. But in the computer or technology industry, instead of sensitivity or specificity, they replace these terms with recall and precision. And if we take a mean of the recall and precision, we come up with a performance metric which is known as an F1 score. F1 score is a very useful parameter that the scientific community uses, especially when the data set that is being studied is not homogeneous, or if there is a class imbalance in the data set. What we mean by class imbalance is, and we've spoken a little bit about that in our discussion too, that for example, if a data set consists of 94 radiographs without disease, and there are 6 radiographs with disease only, then if you use a performance metric such as accuracy, it may the algorithm may be very accurate 94% of the time, so that it can only detect non-disease teeth, but 6% of the time it's not detecting the disease teeth. It may be found to be 94% accurate, but this doesn't tell us good information that the algorithm didn't work very well with disease teeth. So if you use a performance metric like an F1 score, it will pick up this class imbalance and let you know, okay, so the algorithm did not work well on the disease tooth. I hope that answers the question. But yes, we are not experts on these performance metrics such as F1 scores and much more scientific or technical metrics, but things that we need to be now more aware of and cognizant of.
Thank you.
Good.
Also, I will discuss with these examples in the next slides. And when we come to the literature search, it was conducted in October 2020, and 4 major databases used for this. As adding these databases, manual search in Google Scholar was done by the researchers. And search strategy has a 3-pronged search strategy defining a technique of interest, the data set of interest, and field of interest. And it was developed by the authors in collaboration with a medical information specialist from Pakistan. And the authors conducted a pilot search based on various combination of key search terms, and the final search strategy was based on this pilot search. Would you like to explain much more that we can understand this search strategy?
Saqib is going to take this question.
So thank you very much for having an opportunity to explain this. So actually the search strategy in the scoping review, we just first have a three-pronged search strategy, which include the technique of interest, which is the algorithm used. The second one, our key terms was regarding the data set of interest, whether it was radiograph, histological slides, some other things. And thirdly, the field of interest, which was, in our case, was endodontics. So first, the authors, me and Dr. Fahad, we did conducted a pilot search. And then on the basis of this pilot search, we identify the key terms. And then these key terms were mesh terms. And also we have some other keywords, which were the combination of these both. And then we we refined our search strategy. And then we did our literature search in these 4 databases with the help of our university librarian. I hope it answers your question.
Yes, thank you so much. And when we come to the inclusion and exclusion criteria, studies that focused on the use of artificial intelligence in endodontics. Studies reporting the diagnostic accuracy of artificial intelligence models as measurable or predictive outcomes as accuracy, sensitivity, specificity, positive predict or a scores. Studies that have mentioned the type of data sets to test artificial intelligence models were included. And studies not in English language, conference proceedings, letter to editors, studies published before 2010, studies available only as an abstract, studies registered as protocols were excluded from search. And these are the search terms. It's from artificial intelligence, computer-assisted diagnosis, and coming through the endodontic, for example, periapical cysts, radicular cysts, periapical diseases, periapical granuloma, vertical root fracture, apical lesions, periapical pathology, root canal morphology, and or working length were searched as terms. And when we come to all this data extraction, study details, study characteristics, type of artificial intelligence model or algorithm use, diagnostic performance measures were extracted for the data. And in all of these screening process was exported, and the articles were exported to the EndNote reference manager, and the duplicate of reference were removed. The authors of this review screened the titles, abstracts, and full text of the studies according to predetermined inclusion criteria. And with the disagreement, they come together and they discuss and have a consensus at that point. And also after agreement, the researchers calibrated and rechecked all the data again. Do you want to add anything, or I can go on? Okay.
Sounds about
I have a question, Fahad. The articles, they are looking for different outcomes. For example, one of them tried to find the apical part of or root end terminus of the root canal system. The other one looking for the detection between different types of the pathology. So because of different outcomes, is it possible for us to put them together and look at the methodology like that, or you prefer to categorize them? Because I understand you did categorize them as well.
Yes, we did actually categorize them, and that's for this reason we also talk about that there was heterogeneity in the data, and therefore this kind of review cannot we cannot go further into a systematic review at this point in time because there aren't enough studies which are a little bit more homogeneous. So yes, indeed, there was a difference, and we've also spoken about it, and we mentioned it, the details in the table that we presented.
Okay, and what about the different methodology for this artificial intelligence? Because some of them, they use deep learning, the other one used the networking. Yeah. So again, this was different as well.
Right. So at this point in time, when we were doing this review, we just wanted to understand the length and the breadth of the literature that is available in the endodontic literature, and we wanted to report it. So basically, that's what we did. If you can just rephrase the question, perhaps I can elaborate.
Yeah, I think you had two sources of the heterogeneity. One of them was the different methodology or different techniques for artificial intelligence input, and the other one was for the outcome measurement. So the outcome measured was absolutely different from each other. One source of heterogeneity. The input of deep learning also was different. Yeah. So you had two sources of heterogeneity, which makes your life very difficult.
Yeah, it was difficult. We had to deal with shallow networks. We had to deal with different kind of machine learning. Not all machine learning algorithms are the same.
Exactly.
So all the studies use different kind of algorithms. The only way we could categorize them was according to either machine learning, deep learning, or shallow neural networks. The other issue that we have, and maybe you've also picked it up, was the data sets were also different. Some authors have used OPGs, the other authors have used CBCT scans, and some have used periapical X-rays.
Oh yes. That's great. Thank you. Thank you very much. So the limitation of this article was huge. So you did a great job, I believe. Thank you very much. So while you are going to the next step, I'm going to ask my colleagues to share one of the video of our sponsor just for a quick break. Maliha, we don't have it yet. Okay, thank you very much. Go ahead, you can share again. So we are back speaking about the artificial intelligence with the presence of two authors of the article. Goher from Yeditepe University from Istanbul is going to continue her appraisal. Go ahead, please.
Okay. And now we will, I will share and we will talk about the risk of bias and quality assessment. And I will change the. Actually, it's important to assess the quality of the, and it was preferred to assess the quality of the review and the research in this scoping review. So we will see that what they use and how they assess the quality. Yes, here. And systemic reviews of diagnostic accuracy studies are often characterized by markedly homogeneous results originating from differences in the design and conduct of included studies. Careful assessment quality of included studies is therefore essential. And in this area, QADAS can be used, quality assessment of diagnostic accuracy studies can be used as a tool, and since 2003. Originally, this is a general quality tool, and more than 2,000 review abstracts in the database of abstracts mention this tool, and it has been cited more than 5,000 times. The QADAS tool is recommended for use in systemic reviews of diagnostic accuracy by Agency of Healthcare Research and Quality Cochrane collaboration, and also it is suggested by UK National Institute for Health and Clinical Excellence. The original QADAS tool includes 14 items assessing risk of bias, sources of variation, and reporting quality. Each item is rated yes, no, or unclear. The Whitening et al., especially at the first time, used this tool. And then after their experiences and the feedbacks from the Cochrane collaboration, they are suggested a second and revision one as a quality tool. And this is called QADAS 2. In this QADAS 2, they are evaluating 4 sections: patient selection, index tests, reference standard, and flow and timing. And they are offering a chart, a table, suggesting a table like this for the results of this quality assessment. In this system, in this scoping review, the authors used QADAS tool, and they actually basically couldn't take all the QADAS questions or QADAS assessment. They used a tool which is tailored from the QADAS and studied by Mahmoud et al. At 2020. They are actually having using a quality tool for their article, use of artificial intelligence in diagnosis of head and neck precancerous and cancerous lesions. And they modified the QADAS tool. And at the final methodological quality of included studies was rated, and they are scaled. There are 3 types of quality assessment. These are high quality, which scores 6 to 8, moderate quality, which scores 4 to 5, and low quality 0 to 3 score, and they scored 0 to 3 actually. And the quality, after the quality assessment, we are coming through the results. A total of 300 studies were identified after an extensive literature search. After eliminating duplicate articles and screening the rest as per predetermined inclusion and exclusion criteria, there is 12 studies were included for final analysis. And for the results, there are 6 studies used artificial intelligence to detect the periapical pathology, and 3 studies focus on detection of the vertical root fracture. There was one study each on apical foramen determination and tooth root morphology. 3 articles were published between 2012 and 2015, and the rest were published in or after 2015. The information extracted from the included articles is presented, and also the sample sizes, data, studied data, outcomes that are studied, and artificial intelligence models used are artificial model used, and outcome metrics and the conclusions are given by a table, and all data were shown in a table. And you can also see that in here with the red ones that I try to mention, they actually studied on periapical pathosis, and the green ones, only 3 of them worked on vertical root fracture to determine to evaluate, and 2 of them is about locating minor apical foramen and root morphology, and 1 is root anatomy, about the root anatomy. And the general summary of characteristics of included studies are like that. And when we look at the studies with outcome of periapical pathology, according to this table, Setzer et al. Developed deep learning for detecting a periapical lesion and mapped its shape. The algorithm was able to perform image segmentation into 5 categories. And at the conclusion, when we look at the Setzer's study, at the conclusion, they trained on CBCT, and the number of data is 12. The number of data is here, and the conclusion is the deep learning algorithm trained in a limited CBCT environment showed excellent results in lesion detection accuracy with 93%, and the specificity and the PPV and negative and NPV is higher, and the outcome is saying us that deep learning algorithm is quite accurate for the periapical lesion detection. And Orhan et al. And Eckert et al. Also use deep learning for the detection of periapical lesions and their volume determination. Their also algorithm is so high for the accuracy, and Orhan et al. Have outcome metrics like accuracy, sensitivity, specificity, and advanced score, and these percentages are higher than actually the Eckert that used not CBCT, orthophantomogram, and their also both of these studies concluded that the detection of periapical lesions on both panoramic and CBCT has a quite high accuracy. And also, sorry. Andres,
excuse me, sorry. Can you go back to the previous slide? I just wanted to make us a point.
Yes.
So for everybody looking at the Eckert study, if you look closely, you'll notice that this algorithm, or their algorithm, was not very sensitive, and also had a very low positive predictive value. So this is where actually the reporting of more performance metrics really comes in. So if the author would have chosen only to report specificity or AOC, we would not have known about this about the actual applicability of the algorithm itself. What these results actually are showing that the data set was imbalanced.
So using different outcome metrics is so important for us to evaluate the study, actually.
Yeah.
And also, Andres et al. Investigated a deep learning algorithm for the presence of periapical pathosis on panoramic radiographs. This deep learning algorithm demonstrates a precision and F1 score of a precision score is 60% and F1 score is 58%. As compared with the oral and maxillofacial surgeon's performance. Can I ask you a question? Maybe we will come to that, but what do you think about the observers or the researchers that is not endodontist?
So yeah, thank you for posting that question also. And we've spoken about that a little bit. We didn't go too much detail in our discussion, but I guess it'll be very dependent on who the observer or whoever is setting up the ground truth is. It's based on disease. So if someone who is setting up the ground truth is setting it up for example, detection of teeth, this is a fairly straightforward problem that can be done by a general dentist. But if you're looking at periapical pathosis, that's a difficult one. And I personally believe that this kind of data set should be annotated by endodontists. So therefore, this is very important to report whoever is doing these annotations and setting up the reference standard. Thank you for pointing that.
Thank you.
So I would like just to add to Dr. Fahad's comments. It's very fun comment, and you can see that we have added a question in our quarters 2, which was, does the study involve more than one specialist for annotations? So yes, it is a very important parameter, so that there should be more than one specialist for annotating the radiographs. So for that reason, we did include our question in the quarters 2 as well. So just to add this to our comments.
And when we look at other studies of Birdal et al. And Okada et al. That search about periapical pathology, actually Birdal et al. Studied on panoramic radiographs, and Okada used CBCT images, and the findings are especially in Birdal et al. Prove that the proposed methodology can be used efficiently as an assistant for examination of radiographs. Actually, at the first time when I see these two research, they both use machine learning. These are different from the other studies. At the same artificial intelligence model, their outcome metrics are so different. Of course, we are not compared to sensitive and specificity to accuracy scores, but is this a little bit can be depend on the images are so clear with the CBCT or not? What do you think?
Not necessarily. Again, thank you for bringing that question up. Both of them use different kind of machine learning algorithm. If I remember correctly, one of them used an SVM, and the other one I forget the name what they used. So again, the algorithm may be different and the performance can be different. And again, if you look at their the metrics that were reported, Okada only reported accuracy scores. So we don't know what the sensitivity and specificity of their machine learning algorithm was like. Likewise, Birdal only reported sensitivity and specificity, but we don't know what their harmonic mean would be like. They would have been better to know what the F1 score would have been, so that we can make better judgment on the outcomes of these algorithms.
Thank you. I'm going on, and in this table we can see that the articles which are studied about the vertical root fractures, and we can see that Fukuda et al. Used 300 images and they use the deep learning artificial intelligence model, and the CNN learning model has shown promise as a tool to detect vertical root fractures on panoramic images to function as a computer-aided CAD tool. And when we look at Johari et al., they used periapical and CBCT images together and reported that CBCT images are more effective than similar periapical radiograph for vertical root fracture detection. And both in periapical images and CBCT images, the outcome matrix is so high as accuracy, sensitivity, and specificity, especially in CBCT images. The specificity is 100%, and they said that the designed neural network can be used as a proper model for the diagnosis of vertical fractures on CBCT images of endodontically treated and intact teeth together. And CBCT images are more effective than similar periapical radiographs. Is there any comment? I can go on with root morphology. Actually, Hiraiwa et al. At 2019 studied on root anatomy, and they concluded that the deep learning system showed high accuracy in the differential diagnosis of a single or extra root in the distal roots of mandibular first molars. And they use as a metric, I'm not sure about the AlexNet or GoogleNet. If you can make a contribution for us.
Right. Thank you. Again, if you wouldn't have asked, I would still made a contribution on that aspect. We were not able to talk in detail about these algorithms. So AlexNet is a specific type of convolutional neural network that actually won the ImageNet challenge in 2012. So this and this was the first deep learning model which won the ImageNet challenge. So this is the algorithm that actually brought deep learning back into the forefront in 2012. So this is basically a model which is, I believe, based on 8 deep layers. And it performed better than human annotators. Its error rate was less than 5%, I believe. GoogleNet or GooglyNet is a further upgrade on AlexNet. And so they added more deeper layers in the algorithm, and they wanted to see if it performed better. The premise of adding more layers is if you have more layers, it will have better accuracy values. So what Hiraiwa did was not only he wanted to detect root anatomy, but he also wanted to check between the accuracy of both the models, and he also wanted to see which was faster. So he noted that AlexNet was, due to the fact that it had less deeper layers, performed faster in terms of getting a result. But I think they didn't have much of a statistically significant difference between the accuracy values when they looked at it statistically. The numbers depict that GooglyNet and AlexNet again are almost equal. I hope that clarifies the concept.
Okay, thank you.
Let me confess something. This is a very difficult topic, so we need time to digest all this information. This is great. This is great. This is like an introduction for me, at least. And I believe many of us needs actually to go through the video of this discussion again and again, and obviously in your publication as well. That is great. Okay, carry on, please go ahead.
I'm sorry for asking so much questions to Dr. Fahad and Dr. Saqib, but it is also new for me to understand.
Thank you so much for asking these easy questions and not asking hard questions.
No, you are very lucky because the topic is very difficult. We don't have difficult questions.
Yes. Thank you. And also, I believe that, this was a lot of hard work trying to understand algorithm, because I've not been trained formally in this. So myself, Saqib, and my colleagues, we've been doing a lot of reading and research into this. And we had to go through all the history. It's very interesting looking at the history and how these came about. Actually, neural networks have been around in the 1970s. And we were not able to harness them or leverage them into more or utilizable concepts. The reason for that was they at that time were so resource intensive, they were not very practical to use. But then we got access, something changed in 2006-7. We got access to graphical processing units, and we got access to large image data sets, which meant that we could work with these large resources, and these algorithms could work with these large resources to get these fairly accurate results.
Fahad, I understand so far that at least we are looking for evaluation of vertical fracture, or evaluation of root morphology, or evaluation of the pathology. So these three outcomes are different to me. So do you think the methodology of the algorithm that we want to choose for this artificial intelligence is also related to the outcome we choose, or not related?
I think it will be related. So a lot of things we need to understand that number one, the algorithm is also very important. So not all CNNs are the same. Not all CNNs require extra data sets. For example, the recent CNNs that are being used in medicine and indeed dentistry are UNet based, because they don't require very many data sets. The other subtle nuances that we have to look at is people have been training their algorithm on OPG to detect extra roots or root fractures, and we as endodontists know this for a fact that OPGs are not very diagnostics. Instead, it would be more useful to be studying root fractures and the other subtle pathologies on periapical X-rays or CBCTs. So these are things that are there, and we need to focus on research.
Yeah. So let me ask you another question regarding this matter. For example, as an endodontist, we are looking for the torque that we want to use in overhand piece when we introduce a file inside the canal. And obviously the curvature of the canal and the diameter of the canal may have some effect on what torque and what speed we want to choose. So we may think about using this type of artificial intelligence.
I think we lost.
Yeah, I thought it was me first. Thank you for pointing that out.
Sorry, guys. I think the system sent me out. I don't know why. Okay. Am I in? Can you hear me?
Yeah.
Yeah.
So
my question was about if I want actually to do.
Should I go?
Perhaps you can just continue with the appraisal till Nicofor comes back. Just
yes, please carry on. Please carry on until I see what happened. Okay, please carry on. Go ahead, and I'll come back to my question. Sorry, guys, it seems we have a big technical problem today. As Professor Chopra mentioned, it seems like that we have a big problem. I think the system send us out, and we come back again, and they send us out again. I think Gohar is out as well. Okay, Fahad is in or not? No. Viresh?
I guess somebody has hacked the system. It has happened in my webinars also, where we are not able to control the system. They only play with it.
Yes, unfortunately, it looks like that to me as well. But it seems also Fahad is not in. Why we have Saqib and we can carry on until we survive. Saqib, my question is about, is it possible to use this artificial intelligence to control the movement of our file and the speed and torque inside the root canal or not? The question is that.
So yes, that's a very fair comment, and it could be a valid point for the researchers in artificial intelligence to look upon it. But at that point of time, we couldn't find any studies relating to this. But as we say that in endodontics, the artificial intelligence is quite an infancy stage. So there are not enough much studies up till now. And with the advancement, yes, we are hopeful that such kind of system AI algorithms can also come into practice and help the clinician in this way. But at this point of time, we couldn't find any such models related to this variable.
Okay, and maybe also attach such a things to electronic apex locators as well to somehow give them some sort of deep learning for that purpose. I mean, if we want to speak about the applicability of this type of things, I think Fahad is back as well. Sorry, Fahad, we have technical issue today, big technical issue because the system sending us out and again we're back. I think Viresh also have some comments. Saqib, do you want to answer to my question and then we go further?
Yes, Dr. Nikofer, you're right. So to be applicable these algorithms in a clinical practice, we need some resources. First and foremost is data scientists, the specialists, and we need enough data so that we can train our algorithms on enough data sets so that it can perform well in a clinical practice. So can you hear me, sir?
The problem is I cannot unmute myself. The system controlled everything out of my hand. Viresh, go ahead.
Yes, Dr. Saqib and Dr. Fahad, thank you for such a, I don't know what to say, good article, right? Researchers could not, till date, we cannot understand root morphology properly, right? We are still fighting with the apical limit and lateral canals. And now you bring artificial intelligence also inside this. So we need to have a separate line to understand this artificial intelligence, all these algorithms, what you're talking about. Right now they are going above head. But my simple question is, that how are they applicable to us? Means how they will be applicable in endodontics? How will they help me as a clinician or, researcher? I am not very sure how much I'll go into it, but as a clinician, how would it help? Because research, there is a big gap between research and clinical practice. Generally, what we do in research is not applicable in clinics many a times we see this, right?
Okay.
So how is it applicable?
So thank you very much for bringing up this question. So as you can see, like for example, if we are just reading a radiograph, so it's very subjectivity in this regard. And sometimes we might miss some information. So in order to expedite the process and to have automate this process, so these AI models, they can like be adjunct to clinicians. As you can see, like in this article, you can see that we have mentioned the studies which are doing AI algorithms for diagnosing a periapical disease, which can be sometimes missed by the clinicians because of many reasons. So in order to like expedite the process and to automate this process, these models can really help us in our real life. But the thing is, we are very far from real world right now because there is still heterogeneity, and that's why we did a scoping review.
I agree with what Dr. Saqib has said, and there are other parameters that we also need to look at. Not just functionality, but cost effectiveness also. So one has to also study whether it's really cost effective to be utilizing these kind of algorithms in our daily routine practice. Some work is being done on it. But yeah, I agree with Dr. Saqib that we are not there yet. Hoping that we'll be getting there soon, so that our work processes or workflows get a little bit more efficient, and maybe at times when we can miss that PAI index to pathology, the algorithm may point us to just look at it. There may be some pathology there. We're getting there, but not there yet.
You ask your question after Viresh. Viresh, you go ahead.
Right. If I am not wrong, you said that these algorithms have to be feeded manually, right? Like the whiskers of the cat, and this. Am I right? These algorithms have to be built by the dentist or person who's controlling it, and then placed in the computer, right? In this intelligent system.
Right.
Am I right?
So let me just clarify that a little bit better. Let me just clarify a little bit more. So in machine learning, these features have to be extracted and built into the system. But when we're using deep learning, these features need not be extracted manually, but you still need to annotate the data, give a label to the data, right, or the data set.
So now when manually we have to annotate this data, right? Now, just like Mr. Saqib said, that when two clinicians are reading the radiograph, there is a discrepancy. So once manually we have to annotate the data, even in artificial intelligence, then also discrepancy can be there, because it depends what data has been annotated there, right? So how does it cover this discrepancy point here?
Agreed completely with that point. So basically, that's why there is a need to have subject matter specialists annotating the data sets on which the algorithm is trained on. And also you need to have really large amount of data just to make sure that the algorithm has had enough examples of all the disease and non-disease, so that it knows what it is looking at. So that's why we are not there yet. The algorithms have been good proof of concept, but from all practical point of views, it needs more work, and that's what we are suggesting in our paper. We have not said that this is where we are at, but what we are saying is this is where we want to go to, and this is the roadmap.
Right.
Okay, Burchin, you go ahead, please.
First of all, big congratulations to our authors, because there was a gap in the literature about this topic. It's quite new. Its history is almost 10 years. And I had a study about deep learning. It's quite new also. We worked on separated instrument, detection of separated instrument on radiographs. I wish I can have a chance to read this review before, because in the beginning, as a beginner, it was not easy to find my way. It was just trying to find pieces in the literatures and then put them together. It's like a puzzle for me. It's quite a puzzle still. In my team, I had a computer engineer and also a dental radiologist. So it's a little bit easier. We are asking all questions to the computer engineering. We got notes and then Googling them all nice and try to understand. But believe me, this review is quite clear, quite simple for the beginners. So it's really a big chance for all of us, for all the research. So thank you for all these reviewers, all these articles, and also all these tables. They are goals for the beginners, believe me. Actually, I have a question, but we will discuss it later about your quality assessment questions. I think Güher will continue about, is she here? Or
I'm not sure. Go ahead, try to connect again, but yes, she is here. She is here.
Once I'm going out, so I couldn't getting in again. So I'm here with my phone. We are trying to getting in again.
Okay, then I will ask my question.
Yes, you go ahead. Because of the time, it's maybe good to have your question first, and then we go back to Güher.
Okay, you have mentioned about the scoring system, remember? According to these quality assessment questions, there are 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8 questions. And I gave my own score and I get 7, a high score. Actually, actually, I had no checklist, but I read so many articles. My absent question is the multi-center. I conducted my search as a single center. All my data came from a single center. So it was not a multi-centered research. But as a first look, it looks like if I use single-centered data, I will get standardization. So it was quite simple for me. But then I read and I saw that it should be multi-centered, because I tried to overcome this problem by conducting a augmentation procedure to stimulate the different variations, try to solve this problem. But still, I don't understand why this multi-centered is really important. Is there any study in the literature that compare these two? I mean, any researcher studied both multi-centered and the single-centered and then compared them, find a significant difference between them?
Okay, so
Fahad, please.
Let me just first start by thanking you for appreciating my answer. Are you able to hear me clearly?
Yeah.
Yes.
Okay. So thank you so much for appreciating our paper. It's a lot of hard work that we put in. Furthermore, recently we've written a couple of narrative reviews also that we can share with the group, and it'll be very helpful just going through it and understanding the concepts or key concepts. So yes, that's something that we can offer. Your question was related to having a multi-center or a single center study. So if the literature talks about if you have a single center study, for example, and you're doing a study on OPGs, so the machine that you're using will be only one kind of machine which may have a similar exposure.
Yes.
And these models are so sensitive that if you change the exposure, they may perform differently. So this brings us to a concept of overfitting. So if you use a single center radiograph, you may find that your model works well with your machine and therefore is overfitted to your machine and may not have universal generalizability. At this point in time, I'm not aware of any studies that have been done to look at if different machine, same algorithm would work well on a different machine or not. But intuitively, I would say that the same algorithm may not work as well on a different kind of machine, just based on the exposures and the kinds of machine. I hope that answers your query.
Yes. So we need to check them. This could be a topic of a new research.
Yeah, it could be.
Multi-center and single center. Yes.
Fahad, back to my previous question. I'm not sure what is the situation of Goher yet. So if Goher is ready, we can give it to Goher. But the question that I asked from Dr. Saqib, maybe you can give us your comment as well. I mean, in terms of the applicability, or because when we are speaking about the artificial intelligence, we are speaking about a very broad outcomes, including X-rays, radiographs, or pathology, or anatomy, or anything. But when it goes to clinical application, I mean, when I use an electronic apex locator, I want to look at the accuracy of that. Or when I'm using a handpiece, I want to look at the correct torque and correct speed that I apply to my file when the canal curvature is different. Do you think in the future this type of application can be done by this system or not?
So I personally think that it can be done. You will just require a different kind of algorithm to do it. You may not be able to use the convolutional neural network to do it. And mechanical technology is there, is my belief. And it's a very useful suggestion and idea that you made. So you can have an algorithm which is very pressure sensitive, and that can be actually loaded onto your machine. And when you're doing it, if it reaches a certain torque value or certain kind of curvature, it will self-adjust itself. I think that's perfectly doable, and I think the technology is there.
Good, because comparing to reading the radiograph, I think this type of application is more useful comparing just to read the radiographs, because interpretation of radiographs is not a very big issue. But when it comes to vertical fracture, Obviously, yes, that is different. If we can distinguish vertical fracture in terms of diagnosis, we have a lot of problems. So I mean, it may be a good idea to use artificial intelligence for the sake of the difficulty when our human brain cannot choose the best way. We use this artificial intelligence for that purpose. Do you think that is correct?
I think so. It can be utilized and leveraged in that perspective also.
Okay, great.
And
go ahead.
Area of future research. You've given out a research idea to everybody here.
Yeah, obviously we need multidisciplinary approach. As Burçin mentioned, we need engineering for that purpose. We cannot do such a things on our own because we are not trained for such a things, and we need more trainings and more interaction with other disciplines. Saqib, please go ahead. Oh, okay, because I saw that you raised your hand. Okay, go ahead. Do you want to share anything with us, or you can carry on if you like? Okay, we cannot hear you very well. Go ahead. Unfortunately, we cannot hear you very well. I'm very, very sorry for this problem. It is absolutely okay. Now we can hear you. Okay, carry on.
I'm sorry, we put a lag or something to be seen. I couldn't enter the same meeting ID from the computer, so I sent my presentation to Meliha. I hope she will open, and I will go on.
Okay, Meliha, can you open the presentation? Go ahead. I have a suggestion. If you carry on speaking about the next part, because so far we understand we use artificial intelligence for anatomy, for detection of the pathology in the radiographs, and for vertical fracture. If you are carrying on speaking about that, then we can come back to the presentation. Don't worry about that. I know it is a difficult job, but please go and speak it, and then you have your presentation, you speak on it until they share it.
I took a message from Meliha. The presentation couldn't go. I'm sorry, but we will talk about the locating a minor apical foramen that is done. That is found by two of the articles. Sagiri et al. Was done these studies, and first one is 2012, 11 and 12. They are from Iran. And these two studies tested the ANN ability to detect minor apical foramen on dried skulls and cadavers. In their study, they noted that a high, for example, for a 93% of apical foramen was detected accurately with ANN, and they said that ANN determined the anatomic position correctly in their second study as 96% of the time. And then we will talk about if the others can say or can make contribution. I will send Meliha the presentation again.
Okay, I think about the minor foramen, Fahad, that can be a good question, because finding the minor foramen on the radiographs again can be a big question, because this is almost impossible to find such a things in a radiograph by looking at a radiograph. What do you think? I think, do you think the claim of the authors was correct, or they just somehow estimate something as a minor foramen, or machine is able to do such a things? Fahad, please.
Thank you for bringing that question up. It was a very good study. The reason for that is.
Okay, we can hear you. Yes, we can hear you.
Yeah. Actually, it was a very good study because the reference standard or reference test was not radiograph. The algorithm was used to detect the minor foramen. And once the file reached the minor foramen, they would stop the file there and they would fix the file. And after fixing the file, they section the root and look at it histologically whether they had actually reached the minor foramen. So in this case, the reference standard was gold standard, which was histology. And therefore, this was a good study.
So that can be also applicable clinically, you think?
Yeah.
All right. So we can choose such an artificial intelligence, or was it deep learning, I believe?
Oh, this was a shallow learning.
Shallow learning.
Yeah. It was an artificial neural network.
All right. Can you explain a little more about this technique, how we can use such a things in the clinical situation?
What do you mean? The artificial neural network?
Yes, yes.
So what would happen is perhaps you could build it up in the APEC locator, or also you can just put the file in the tooth, do an X-ray based on the radiograph. The algorithm will be able to predict how far away or how far ahead are you of the minor apical foramen, and based on the calculations, the algorithm will let you to know what adjustments to make.
Okay, so you mean the future generation of electronic APEC locator can be equipped with such a part of the machine that the APEC locator can improve themselves gradually?
Yeah.
Can we say such a thing?
That can also be done. And the other way of doing it is just exposing a radiograph and the algorithm looking at the radiograph and making a prediction of how far ahead are you on the file or how far short you are on the file.
I understand. That looks really interesting. That looks really interesting. Thank you very much. Okay, go ahead. I think you have your presentation. Please go ahead.
Yes, and thank you, Meliha, for making. I'm sorry for making travel to you. And now we are going on with the results that are resulted as artificial intelligence models. We can say that out of the 12 included studies with the red holes, you can see the 6 used the deep learning models, of which CNN was the most common architecture. The 4 studies, which are the blue holes, used neural networks, and those 2 studies of these 12 included studies used machine learning as the artificial intelligent models. And the data set, we can paste manual. Thank you. And included studies was radiographic imaging, 2-dimensional periapical or the periapical radiograph or the panoramic radiographs, and 3-dimensional imaging CBCT modalities were studied. It's important to note that RPG may contain more than one region of interest, teeth, roots, and lesions. Likewise, a CBCT can consist of several slices and images at different levels. Therefore, to avoid confusion, the total number of OPG and the CBCT scans used the training and testing are denoted as N in this review. Yes. We can go on. And the size of sets, one before, please, Melia. You can go on previous one. Yes. The size of data sets is in the included studies has a large range from 9 to 3,000. 5 studies used data sets of less than 100 images. And in the results, we can go on. When we look at the metrics that are used, The author said that most of the include accuracy, sensitivity, and specificity were the most common reported performance metrics. Most of the included studies evaluate multiple diagnostic metrics. 4 studies reported only one. In this
Go ahead, please unmute yourself.
I took the
Yes, carry on. We can hear you.
Okay. And when we look at the reference test and ground truth, information about the reference test could be extracted. We can pass the next slide. Okay. Information about the reference test could be extracted. In all but 3 studies didn't mention reference test. Can I ask the authors to about the reference test that you needed, which is not mentioned? Can you explain a little more about the reference test for us?
So by reference test, what we meant was what steps were taken to set up the ground truth. So for example, if you want to train a model on something or test it against something, you need to make sure that whatever the algorithm is looking at, you already have a parameter to test it against. Let me try and re-explain this. So reference test was, for example, if you're looking at pathology, who did the pathology detection? How was this pathology annotated? So this information was important, and in some studies, this information was not there.
Okay. And I think we can go on. The endodontist was the most common medical expert validation for reference tests in 5 studies, followed by a radiologist in 4 studies. Other health professionals, such as the dentist, oral pathologists, radiology graduate students, and maxillofacial surgeons were also used in this 12 included study. And when we come to the quality assessment, we can go on. Thank you. As we told about this quality assessment in the materials and methods, we can see the results in one table. The quality assessment results has actually, the quality assessment questions are included in the author's preferred artificial intelligence tailored CODAS tool, and it's also modified by Mohammed et al. Actually, but I think that there's some other differences and some other different than adapted questions to this article about endodontics. We know that Mohammed et al. Look at the search about precancerous precancerous lesions. So this 8th question, for this quality assessment adapted for this article actually, this review actually. And so how, for example, I want to ask that the first question is, does the sample size consist of bigger than, larger than 100 images? I saw that Mohammed et al. Added one question about the number of images like 50. Is there any is there any add-ons for taking a question like that between these 100 images? For example, edit a question like having a 50 images, because it can be, for example, it was used, this question was used with Mohammed et al. And if we can use this with this quality test, or if we couldn't, well, why? The scores can be changed for some studies, for example. How do you decide which one is necessary, which one is not, despite or the adaptation in endodontics?
Just to clarify, your question is how did we come up with the number 100? If a data set is 100 or more, how do we say that? So to be honest, it was really arbitrary. But we do know that in deep learning, especially if the data set is larger, it means that the model will perform better. And so we wanted to just improve upon Mahmood et al. Study, and we wanted to increase the data set. So honestly, really, it was the 100 images is an arbitrary number that we came up with. It's not supported by literature. Like I said at the outset, this Quartus tool was utilized in this scoping review so that we can further utilize it as a pilot and further utilize it in other systematic reviews, for example. And we've also alluded to it in our text, especially in our discussion, that specialists from our field of interest should sit together and work on a quality assessment tool for AI literature, which a validated quality assessment tool. This is by no means a validated quality assessment tool. There is a lot of improvement that can be made on it.
So I just want to clarify here that you mentioned that the Mahmood et al. Mentioned 50 sample size, but if you can look in their tool, this question is basically from the Mahmood et al. And they mentioned that does the data consist of more than 100 samples? And the third question was, if not, does it consist of more than 50 unique samples? So we did only take the question number 2. So this was basically from Mahmood et al. Tool, actually, the question number 1.
Okay, thank you.
Yeah.
And we can pass to the discussion part. And the use of...
I think there's a question by Burchin. Burchin, please.
Can you hear me now?
Yes, yes.
Yes. Can we go back one slide back about this quality assessment questions? So actually, the study should involve more than one specialist. But what about the Cohen's-Kappa statistics? Normally, the more than one observer should be agree, inter-observer agreement, inter-observer agreement. Why didn't you ask about this quality assessment? I think there should be another question about the Cohen's-Kappa statistics. What do you think about it?
So none of the studies actually really reported a Cohen-Kappa statistic to my recollection.
Really?
Yeah, that is to my recollection, because they only speak about whoever, how many annotators actually did this, were they specialists or dental students. And I think, if I remember correctly, again, this was done 1.5 years ago. They were just looking at this and training one another for annotation purposes.
It's quite interesting.
But it's an interesting comment. Yeah.
Yeah, because the meaning of using more than one investigators actually means the inter or intro observer agreement. So it's very interesting that they didn't use Cohen's-Kappa statistics.
Yeah.
Thank you. It's an interesting.
Yeah, it can be a big issue, not really interesting. Yeah. That can be a limitation, a problem, or a conflict.
I did
definitely, and that's something that we should go into the tool then.
Yes.
Yes.
Good point, Burchin. Thank you. Okay, go ahead. Next slide, please, Maliha, and carry on. We are out of the time, so we should make it a bit quicker.
Yes, most of the questions that we discussed is since now is already at the discussion part. I can go fast with the discussion. I think Dr. Fahad and Habib was also discussing most of the things for us. Thank you again. And we can see that deep learning in endodontic literature is not so much enough. Only 2 studies published in 2019 and 4 studies in 2020. This is a relatively low number when we compare to the medical fields. And actually, we can pass. I a little bit try to explain in this part a convolutional neural network, because with 6 out of the 12 studies, CNN was the most commonly applied the deep learning model. This is not surprising because CNN is the most established deep learning algorithm now. We can go on. Actually, doctors and the authors are explaining us how the convolutional neural network works, and I will only say we can go on. It's complex and not easy to understand the mechanism, but it can easily say that this is a dog and also at British Yorkshire Terrier at the same time with complex complex procedure. We can give a simple input. We can take a complex output with a neural network. I will not so much try to explain this CNN because the authors also explain us very well. And we have to know that the large amount of training data is required to improve the performance of CNN model. And we can go on. The entire data should be split into training and testing data sets. This approach will incorporate bias, especially if the data set is limited and varied. To mitigate this bias, an initial large data set is required to ensure that both training and test data will be composed of similar information. Can I ask that I read the articles, and I saw some of them has the same data with the training and with the test data. For example, I remember that if they use 50 data, they are using the same test data they are using the same number of training data, and the same data were used as test data. Do you think that this is making an advantage actually for this study or for this outcome?
Indeed, I would like Dr. Saqib, if he's able to share his slide, to show an example of how this validation is done. Dr. Saqib, are you able to share your slide?
Yes, sir. I will just do it right now.
Yeah. So it's very interesting. This is called data resampling technique that can be leveraged or utilized to increase the or make sure that the data class is not imbalanced. And then maybe Saqib will be able to explain this a little bit better with a figure. This figure, by the way, was part of the original paper, but this was excluded from the original paper after some of the reviewer comments that things were getting a little bit more complex and complicated for the readership to understand. So we had excluded this figure, but it's a good opportunity for us to show this.
Yes, that's good. Great. Thank you. There is also a question from Sanvi. So maybe Sanvi can have his question or her question after. Sanvi, do you want to go ahead? No? Okay. Yes, please. Saqib, please go ahead.
So can you see this slide?
Yes, we can see your slide very well. Okay. We can see your slide.
So this is just a slide showing cross-validation techniques. So as you can see, this is usually done in data sets which are very small in number. So just to make sure that in each learning set, the test data has, every data set has an opportunity to be in the learning data. As you can see in fold 1, 8 data set is included, in fold 2, in fold 3, and fold 5, and fold 8. So this is called as 5K cross validation techniques. And by incorporating this in our small data sets, thus we can minimize the bias, and we make sure that all the test data has an equal chance to appear in the learning data set. I hope it answers your questions, or somebody wants to more clarify it, Dr. Fahad can.
I think you can tell us a bit more about it.
Okay.
I'll try and explain this a little bit more. So
Okay.
let's think of it as an example. Say, for example, we have a data set comprising of 100 radiographs. And we want to train our model on those 100 radiographs and also test it. So the model can be divided into 80 images on which the model is being trained. And the 20 images which are left are images that the model can be tested on. So for example, fold 1 would have, so if there are 100 images, we just break them into 20 images each, A, B, C, D, and E. And B, C, D, and E would be our training data set, and A would be our testing data. And then we rerun this on on the same model, but this time around, let's say 20 images which are B are test images, and the rest of the images will be used for training. This way, all the images in our data set would have equal opportunity to be part of the training data as well as test data. This strategy will help us increase our data set and also make sure that all images have equal opportunity to be part of the test or the training data sets, and therefore will decrease the bias in our training and testing processes, and will also to a degree address the class imbalance problem that we may have. I hope that clarifies the concept a little bit more.
Yes, but in that situation, you mean it is necessary for the reviewer or whoever tests the system is going to do that first as a human being and then give it to the machine and define that, or the machine is going to do all the tests? I mean.
So what this would mean is that really all 100 of them be annotated by human expert. Mm-hmm. So the image will have an output label attached to it. The machine will be, or the algorithm will be trained on 80 images, which it will see, and 20 of those images the algorithm has not seen. So this will be unseen data. And they will test it, and then they will get an outcome metric out of it. Likewise, they will go on to a fold 2, fold 3, fold 4, and fold 5. And therefore, all of these images will have an equal opportunity to be either in the testing or the training data. And then average of all these 5 folds will come out to be your performance metric for that algorithm.
So gradually, the machine learn more and more and more in this situation.
Yes. And will have access to all the images in the data, be it training or testing.
Sounds very interesting, although very complicated, but very interesting. You simplify that very well. Thank you very much. Thank you. Malhe, please go ahead and go back to the presentation. I think we are out of the time. I'm very sorry about the technical issue that we have today, but go ahead. Can you go ahead quickly and finish it in 5 minutes?
We can say that only 3 of the included studies have this current cross-validation techniques. And we have learned that how important it is from the users. And we can go on. We have already talked about we can go on the next ad. We have already talked about the performance metrics, and we said that accuracy is not acceptable and believable by itself. And the more performance metrics are needed in the studies to be more valid and accurate. And we can go on that. I want to authors also go on. Authors also told us the other metrics, and we can go quickly with this one, Amelia. We have precision and specificity, recall, accuracy, receiver operating characteristic curve, array under the curve, and F1 score and F beta score. These are all most strange for us, I know, with the formulas. And I want to say good luck for the next researchers about this. The recently published and the review, systemic review is with Kanagar et al. And they are also said that we can use we are using at this moment artificial intelligence, determining working plan, locating capitals for a man, and prediction of periapical pathologies, detection and diagnosing the vertical fractures and different root morphologies. And we can go on that in the discussion part. Authors said that artificial intelligence for working lab determination, we can conduct that computer-based methods such as deep learning may be a successful adjunct to determine the working length. And for understand, when we use artificial intelligence for understanding root morphology, determining root for morphology on two-dimensional radiographs using artificial intelligence would mitigate the limitation of, you can go, Amelia, limitation of the radiation dose. If we can go on two-dimensionally and adapted artificial intelligence to two-dimensional radiographs, we can have an advantage to reduce the radiation load for this research. And assessing the quality of methodology of artificial intelligence related studies are insufficient right now, that I understand from the article. And of course, we are using some modified, methodology tools, but even if what Mohammed et al. Did is not enough, and there is some validation and some addings are needed for the specifically artificial intelligence related studies. Did I understand true? The others maybe have a contribution, give a contribution. We can go on, Melia. At these slides, I thought that as we discuss again, the questions that assess the quality, and we can go on, and because the authors also actually explained why did they use these questions and modified these questions. As I told, also Joanna Bridges Institute also try to contribute these quality assessment tools, but in a recent study about the restorative dentistry, artificial intelligence application in restorative dentistry, we can say that, you can go, Amelia, they can only use 4 of these questions, and development of validation tool for quality assessment of artificial intelligence research are needed. When we come to the limitations, several included studies had small data sets. This can be attributed to the fact that a big database generation is time consuming and requires a huge resources. So the authors recommend that using some, I think, the image data to do a resource for their next research or next applications I think these are the image, SetNet and MS Coco. You can find the internet search here. And when we come to the conclusion, artificial intelligence in endodontics is at the antecedent stage when compared with other fields of medicine. With the advent of CNN, there has been an upsurge in endodontic artificial intelligence research. The current trend of research is focused on the detection of the periapical pathology, vertical root fractures, determination of apical terminus, and identification of the root morphology. The reporting of performance metrics was heterogeneous. All artificial intelligence models show acceptable as now. And the scientific reporting of artificial intelligence related research is irregular. However, implementing the proposed guidelines will improve the scientific rigor in planning and reporting of artificial intelligence related research. And we can see the development of the artificial intelligence, and we will see what we face with the deep learning and the other artificial intelligence in our dental life. Thank you.
Okay, thank you very much. I believe we did a great job by having this interruption by the hackers and the systems. So the Zoom system is not intelligent enough to get rid of them itself. So thank you very much, Fahad. Thank you very much, Saqib. And thank you very much, Goher, for staying with us until the end of this session. You did a great job. By the way, this is a very difficult topic. You authors did an amazing job by this publication because you gave a lot of contribution and help us a lot to understand this big issue, this very important subject for the future. And Goher did a very great job also to somehow simplify that for us. So first of all, we put our hand together for Dr. Fahad Umer, and we send this certification on behalf of APEC and Tehran University of Medical Sciences to Dr. Fahad Umer for his great job and for adding a big paper to endodontic science. Thank you very much indeed for your help. Thank you very much.
Thank you so much for having me.
Yes, Fahad, please go ahead.
No, thank you so much for having me. It's an honor.
So you are very humble. You are very humble. Thank you very much. And the next certification goes for Dr. Saqib Habib. Thank you very much, Dr. Saqib Habib. I can see the future of endodontics have a lot of brains in it, and I'm sure the future of endodontics is very brightful having Dr. Saqib and Dr. Fahad and all of you in it. Thank you very much, Saqib, for accepting our invitation and being with us. We will send you a hard copy of this certification as well as the electronic copy.
Thank you very much, Dr. Nico, and the moderator, Dr. Goher. It was really a great experience with you guys, and we're looking forward to having more sessions with you and having beautiful, scientific discussions. Thank you.
Yeah, and I'm sure it gives all of us a very good networking for the future. So it's like a CNN for all of us to work together and have some publications, some research all together with each other. And let's end up with this certification for Dr. Goher Baroud from Yeditepe University, my great friend. Thank you very much, Goher. You did a great job. And let's say we resist all the attack by these hackers today, and Goher did a great job by not giving up. We don't give up at all. Thank you very much, Goher. Thanks a lot.
Actually, when I see the topic at the first time, I'm so afraid of appraising this article. But tonight I see that if Dr. Fahad and Dr. Saqib is not here, I couldn't tell this much. So thank you for being here and supporting me again. And thank you for the organization. Thank you very much.
Thank you. I think Burçin wants to add something. I think Meriç wants to add something. And I give Professor Arshad Hassan also to add something to everything. Burçin, you go ahead, please. Okay, unmuted. Okay, great.
Thank you. It was a really big pleasure and big honor for me to hear with you guys. This is a very important article, very important review for all of us. So we are as a beginner and you open a way for us. So thank you very much.
Meriç?
Thank you very much, Güher and the authors. This is a really upcoming feature of the endodontics. We better understand this. And thank you for gathering all of this information and helping us to learn more.
Thank you very much, Meriç. Professor Arshad.
Well, yes, thank you very much for to Dr. Fahad Umer for such a wonderful article. And my silence says it all. I did not ask even a single question.
I'm surprised.
Well, but the reason is very simple, because even I was trying to understand a lot of concepts behind artificial intelligence. Fahad is, in fact, witness to one of the events that took place a few days ago. I was in a paper setting of an exam, and I asked Fahad, "Can I keep artificial intelligence in that exam?" It was a postgraduate level exam, and he said, "No way, no way." The candidates hate you. So it's such a difficult and new concept that I think even the postgraduate candidates in endodontics may have tough time answering these questions. Even if we are having difficulty, like a person of a level of Professor Nicofer is having a tough time understanding the concept. So where do I stand?
Yeah, I was almost quiet. I was almost quiet.
Same here. Better to be quiet.
Yes, you are right. You are right. By the way, some of you may receive some very offensive messages from our hacker. Please accept my apology for that. I almost had a heart attack during this attack, but please accept my apology. I'm very, very sorry for that. That is the problem of artificial intelligence, I believe. Not anything else. Okay, Viresh, please.
Yeah.
Thank you very much, Professor Arshad Hassan.
My pleasure, my pleasure.
Viresh, it is your time.
Artificial intelligence has hacked the system, so I was getting some interesting messages in between, but it's okay, right? So, but I kudos to the team that who has actually conducted this successfully. Thank you, Gohar. Thank you, Dr. Fahad and Dr. Saqib. I am still fighting understanding root canal morphology and the apical system. Sometimes irrigation causes confusion, sometimes EDTA causes confusion, sometimes Dr. Nicofer brings calcium silicate cements. So all these things are causing confusion, and now you have brought artificial intelligence. Thank God I'll finish with my research and keep it aside. Because but it is a very interesting thing, and I am really looking forward that in coming decade probably it will take a step forward, and I hope that after 5 or 10 years we are able to see something developing really nice in endodontics, and our headache is taken over by artificial intelligence, right? So thank you once again, guys, and it's always honor to be in this platform attending such.
Thank you all. Thank you very much for staying with us. We are going to end up the session, but I want to ask Dr. Fahad Umer to have his final talk before we say goodbye. And after Fahad finished, we are going to show you some of our sponsor videos because of these problems, we couldn't have a lot of breaks. So we are ending up with those videos. Fahad, the last talk, please.
Thank you so much for your invitation and extending your invitation. I'm very, very humbled and honored to be speaking in front of such a enriched audience. I'm grateful to Tehran University as well as APEC for inviting me, and also relieved at the end of the session. It wasn't as tough as I had imagined. I had a little bit of a sleepless night, I must confess, but it was a wonderful experience. I hope we can contribute more in future sessions as participants as well as perhaps presenting some other day. Thank you so much for having us over.
Thank you. Before I say goodbye, Fahad, I want to ask you a favor. I am sure many of the participants are very keen to understand more and more about the artificial intelligence itself and also its relation to endodontics. We may arrange something absolutely extra to this group of the studies and ask you to have some sort of workshop, obviously a virtual workshop for us, and explaining the, let's say, basic part or the very basic science related to artificial intelligence. We may send something to our colleagues, and if they register for such a thing, because I have received some feedback about that, asking me to contact you and help for such a thing. And maybe the best idea, because I'm sure you cannot bother with a lot of questions sending directly to you, maybe you can offer us another presentation, not related to this article, but just related to the general idea of artificial intelligence. If others are agree with me as well, we are going to do such a things very soon with you, and we arrange such a things later, completely independent from Appraise to Raise. Okay, thank you very much indeed. And we are going to end up our session. Thank you. I have received actually 2 agreements with my suggestions, we are very proud in our association, having somebody like Saqib, like Goher, like Fahad, with this amazing deep knowledge. And we are going to be a continuous student and learning from them. But this is human learning, not machine learning. We want to learn from you, Fahad, in the future. So please say yes to my suggestion.
Yes, it will be my honor.
Thank you. Thank you very much indeed. We will arrange that.
Thank you so much.
I also thank to Meliha for her
Oh,
support.
yes. Thank you very much for reminding me that. Thank you. She is behind the scene. She is amazing. She is behind the scene, and she did a great job. Believe me, she answered hundreds of messages from me, from others, just behind the scene to control everything, make it very smooth today, with a lot of problem today. Maliha, thank you very much. Thank you, Maliha. Maliha, please go ahead. We are happy to have the videos from the sponsor. And if, guys, you want to go back to your work, please feel free to go. I think Maliha has got some problem. Okay, goodbye, everybody. Don't worry. Okay.